Truth Television. It is time to explore the True Wellness Connections.
Welcome again to the True Wellness Connection. My name is Claudine Salomo.
Today is Tuesday.
Especially on Tuesdays like this, we talk about a lot of topics.
Join Mrs. Claudine Salomo.
I am not saying you should not love yourself for who you are, but you should want to do something even better.
Victoria Masio.
You just have to be honest with yourself.
And Elizabeth Bremo.
The way you live tells so much to the kids.
To talk health, wealth, parenting, relationship, finances, and life at large.
Because any negative thought, trust me, does never build anybody, can only destroy us.
Look deep inside your pocket, your bank account.
The way you handle situations at home matters.
The True Wellness Connections, every Tuesday on the Truth Television, 5:30 Winnipeg.
I went through so much pain. By His grace, He made me victorious. I'm a winner. In the name of Jesus, I'm stronger. By the blood of the Lamb, I'm a winner. In the name of Jesus, I'm stronger. By the blood of the Lamb. I have failed many times. Missed many chances.
I have missed many chances. My world was just a mess.
By His
grace, He made me victorious. I'm a winner. In the name of Jesus, I'm stronger.
Oh.
By the blood of the Lamb,
I'm a winner. In the name of Jesus,
I'm stronger.
I'm strong. Follow me. might be afraid.
When it is Tuesday on the True Word Television, it is time to explore the True Wellness Connections.
Welcome again to the True Wellness Connection. My name is Claudine Salomo.
Today is Tuesday.
Especially on Tuesdays like this, we talk about a lot of topics.
Join Mrs. Claudine Salomo.
I am not saying you should not love yourself for who you are, but you should want to do something even better.
Victoria Masio
You just have to be honest with yourself.
and Elizabeth Brimo
The way you live tells so much to the kids.
to talk health, wealth, parenting, relationship, finances, and life at large.
Because any negative thought, trust me, does never build anybody, can only destroy us.
Look deep inside your pocket, your bank account.
The way you handle situations at home matters.
The True Wellness Connections, every Tuesday on the True Word Television, 5:30 Winnipeg.
You are watching the True Word Television, spreading the true word of salvation.
Hi, welcome everyone to True Wellness Connection, broadcasting from True Word Television. We meet here every Tuesday, my fabulous friends and sisters. We talk issues pertaining to life, marriage, finances, spiritual well-being, self-care, and we always have the privilege of inviting special guests that is always coming to share their experiences, their success stories, and their areas of expertise. So today, I'm so excited to be your host because it feels good to be a host and just be at the listening and the asking side of the show. But here today, I'm not alone. I'm with my beautiful sister Lizzie that I always look forward to seeing every Tuesday. She's here with me, and you know, all of us know that she's a teacher by profession, and she keeps us on our toes. So she's loaded with a lot of questions, and we are going to have a wonderful time today. And we have a special guest that we invited. Is a man with many caps. I called him the boss because he's boss and he's good at what he does. His name is Mr. Patrick Tshiovo. Mr. Patrick has a deep passion when it comes to issues about life, addiction, helping families navigate their troubles, their issues, their addiction, their mental health, and he has been in a helping profession for over 17 years. He's always looking forward to help couples, individuals to find new coping strategies. Like I said, Mr. Patrick, he has a lot of caps on his head. And what he does it very well. He's the executive director of Impact in Winnipeg, Manitoba. It's an outpatient treatment center that helps people going through addiction to recover. And Mr. Patrick is also executive. I don't know how you do what you do, Mr. Patrick, because Mr. Patrick also is an executive director of Okapu. It's the counseling services, is a private. And in this counseling, he focuses on helping professionals. It's professional because we still have professionals that sometimes they don't find it very easy going to where people will see them. So he has a private counseling and community services where he helps professionals that are struggling with addiction, with mental health, marriage crisis. So Mr. Patrick always provides a compassionate listening ear to the professional that is always coming. There's no way you will go to Mr. Patrick and not come back refreshed and renewed. And like I said it, I'm going to be your host, and I'm Pastor Ngozi. In here, myself and my husband, by the special grace of God, we are the lead pastors of House of New Hope Ministry. So today, Viewers' discretion is advised on our show today. So I will ask couples, please, if you have kids under 18, please let them stay out a little bit, because God is going to bring healing to homes.
That's
and
right.
is mainly focused on adults. So today we are going to look at the topic expectations. And we are going to look into the issues of addiction. We all know that marriage is a gift from God. And it is the plan and the purpose of God that couples will enjoy their marriage and be able to raise godly seed and have a wonderful time. But presently, the issue of addiction is taking a toll on the society, especially within the family system. That there is a lot of couples there that are struggling with one addiction or the other, drugs, alcohol, pornography. But research have really shown that there is a lot of issues when it comes to pornography. And if people are dying in secret, they don't want to talk about it within and outside of Christian families. They don't want to talk about the issue of pornography, which is an addictive behavior.
That's right.
That are destroying. I call it a little cancerous issues within the home, because it creates a lot of emotional disconnection between couples. It creates an unhealthy sexual intimacy, sexual relationship among couples. And it's a sin, which I will say is the sin that happens behind closed door. It is shaming. Nature will tell you pornography is not something anybody is proud of, and that is why it is done behind closed door, because people are struggling. They don't know how to talk about it, and it's a hidden sin. And we all know that God's intention is for us to have a healthy relationship, for couples to enjoy themselves and to be able to trust each other. But the issue of addiction is becoming an epidemic in our family, and attention is needed in that area. And today, by the special grace of God, Mr. Patrick is going to take us on a journey when it comes to pornography, with his work experiences. He has done a lot of work and research. He has a master's degree in social work. He's going to guide us through the journey so that people, instead of suffering behind closed door, you can come and take a look at it and see how it's affecting you spiritually, how it's affecting your home, your intimacy with your couple, how it has brought a disconnection in your communication. So I'm going to start by welcoming each and every one of you, and I know that you really had a wonderful Thanksgiving. So do you mind to say hi to my audience and my wonderful friends that are watching there? Sister Lizzie, that's good.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to have you joining us this afternoon. We will appreciate it if you can love, like, comment. Let us know what you are thinking about. Sexpectation is so big, it's actually wide. So we want to know your questions or just a comment. We will really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Patrick, I think our audience, our friends, and everyone there is waiting patiently to hear what we have to say. Like I said, addiction have started to take more time away from couples, and is affecting their intimacy with each other, and is affecting emotionally, physically. What do you think are some of the causes of pornography's addictions?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me and offering me the opportunity to speak on this subject of sexpectation and sex in our families, in our community. But I think before I answer that question of you've asked, I just first want to mention that the issue of pornography and sex, it's not that it's becoming more prevalent in people's life. It's now that it's more in the open. It has always existed, and
That's
a lot
right.
of people have acted in the privacy of their own bedrooms and the four walls. So now it's becoming more and more visible, so that's why we do see that. We start seeing that even in places where we never expected to talk about it.
That's right.
So that's why I was so happy to be here today, because it's very, very important that this subject be brought into our church. Because as black people, as people of culture, we always go back to our church. That's where our roots are. And that's where we get our guidance. That's where we get our strength. So if we can bring that down into our church, then we are able to openly talk about it.
That's right.
And if we can talk about it, we can fix it.
That's right.
If we can't talk about it, we cannot fix it. So thank you very much for embracing this subject and bringing it up in the open so we can move forward on this. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like what you said, that it is time to bring it out to the open, because the assumption we have is harmless.
That's right.
And because it's harmless, we think, oh, because it's harmless, there's no reason to talk about it. And when we go to church, like we know, everybody try to... You're just smiling.
Oh, he's not too holy.
Yeah, so let's not just go there. Whereas there is a lot of dangers when it comes to pornography. And when we really want to talk about addictions, our focus is always on drug and alcohol. Maybe they look at shopping and they think it's just maybe ladies something that involved in shopping. So with their experiences, and do you mind to speak a little bit on the dangers of pornography in our family, among couples, and what are the causes of it, so that our viewer will start knowing some of the ways to deal with it, and not, instead of thinking it's harmless, you know.
Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Pornography is not, yeah, it looks harmless, but it actually hurts a lot of people, because if you are, and it affects, to start with, pornography addiction or any type of addiction can affect anyone, be you married, single, old, young, it can affect you. So, and what we call addiction is the persistent and escalating patterns of behavior that, if acted upon, causes hurt to you or to other people. But despite that hurt, you're still going at it. So that's what addiction is, right? So when you look at pornography or sex addiction particularly, why people think that it's harmless is because if I have that addiction, I do it in privacy of my four walls. And as soon as I step outside, nobody knows anything.
Preach on.
All right? Nobody knows anything, so then it's not harmful to anybody. As compared to drugs and alcohol, when you consume them, you step outside, your body still have reaction to it, right? So that's why we sometimes confuse it and thinking that it's not harmful, but it's consuming your mind.
That's right.
Instead of paying attention to your wife, your husband, or your kids, you're thinking, spending time planning on, when am I going to be alone? When am I going to go look at porn? When am I going to go do this and that? So you're not there for them. So you promise your family and your wife, I will be there for you, but then you emotionally retrieve yourself.
That's right.
So in a way, you're still hurting them.
Please, can I just ask, what is pornography? Because some people may be sitting in front of their television and they may not know what it is. So,
well, pornography is, it's very difficult to put a definition to it, because everybody looks at it differently, right? So I'll give you some examples. So if you go on the internet, you type in the word pornography, you will see everything from cartoons to animals to people having sex, intercourse. So when people are engaged in intercourse, for the purpose of filming it and putting it out there in the open for commercial reason or for whatever promotional issue reason, that becomes pornography, right? So it's out there for entertainment purposes for other people, and for other it's for commercialization, for other it's for just way of passing time, right? So, but definitely it involves intercourse.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's very detrimental to yourself and to your family.
Very detrimental to yourself and family if you do not use it properly, because the purpose of that is me and my wife could be sitting at home and deciding, okay, tonight is our night, we're celebrating our anniversary, we know we're gonna have sex. All right, so if we're going to have sex, we want to stimulate one another, we can put a movie out there, watch it, and it helps us get our moods going, our grooves going. We can watch it and then, you know, enjoy ourselves after. But we do not venture in this world that we are becoming the people that are acting out, right? So if you're using it in that way, there's an element of healthy and consensual viewing of pornography. So it's me and my wife that have agreed to watch it. Right? So it's not Patrick going out there behind my wife. Where is she at? Okay, let me quickly run and I'm going to watch pornography and come back and pretend everything else, right? So no, you have to watch it as together. In that regard, you might call it a healthy way of looking at pornography.
But we know that there are so many times that something that started harmless result to harmless situations.
Yeah.
And that is when now research, even people are talking about the dangers of it. Like you said, it takes you away from your family, it takes you away from your kids. Your mind is always messed up because you are looking forward to going to look at it, you are going to satisfy you. And there are so many people that have really said that it creates a lot of unusual sex expectation on each other. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely, because, you know, the mind is a very tricky thing, because when you're looking at pornography, they can film it over a period of 6 months. But what you are watching is 35 minutes. So your brain tells you that these people have been having sex for 35 minutes and they have not stopped. But in reality, that movie was filmed over a 6-month period. But with the technology, the way they're showing, they can just move angle, you still think, oh yeah, they're still the same place. They're still the same people, right? So you see that trick. So that becomes a very difficult problem, because now you put in that expectation onto your partner, saying, well, we've only had sex for 2 minutes and you're telling me you're done? How come that person can do 35 minutes? So you're setting up very negative expectation of yourself. Right? So that's where it becomes very dangerous, yes.
Wow. And do you think it's gender specific? Is it just men's thing? Or is it vice versa when it comes to this addiction?
Oh, there's no barriers. So it goes from, as I say, from men, women, old, young, there is no discrimination. So everyone. So in my practice, I've seen men as young as 18-year-old that have porn and sex addiction. I've seen 76-year-old with porn and sex addiction. So I've seen men and women. So it's really affect everyone.
So what led him into this? What caused someone into getting into this addiction, knowing the implications?
Well, just like every addiction, it's always about pain. When you see someone in addiction, you always have to ask them, don't ask them why the addiction, but why the pain? What kind of pain are you trying to suffocate, right? So there is something that is bothering them or missing into their lives that they're trying to fill out the void with. And people can choose to go with drugs, alcohol, pornography, masturbation, or sex. Right? So they could choose anything, really, Some people go with gambling, some people go with food, and it could be anything, so to fill up the void.
So instead of feeling of, I like what you said when you're seeing somebody struggling with addiction, don't ask why. That the first question you should ask is then, what are you trying to suffocate?
Yeah.
What are you trying to suffocate? Because when you ask that question, from what I'm hearing from you, it will open up for the discussions. It's going to open up for somebody. But what if somebody is not willing to talk about it?
Well, and that's where, you know, you need to have some sort of different skills to approaching problems and difficult conversation, right? So it's, you know, you can't just walk up to someone today, even if you guys are best friends. You've seen each other, you talk about every day you talk, but let's say, I'll give you an example. You walk up to your best friend and say, hey, did you masturbate today? What do you think they will give you as an answer? What do you think they will give you as an answer?
No.
No. And then they'll probably feel really upset. How dare you to ask me that? But you guys are friends, right? You guys are friends. Never mind someone who's struggling, already have pain, and you asking them why the addiction. So they're not going to tell you anything.
That's right.
Right? So they're going to hide it even more, saying, I'm not telling you anything. So it takes time to build that connection with the person, you know, to be able to talk to them and say, hey, I'm a safe person, you can trust me. It takes passion to understand them, where they're coming from. No judgment, compassion. They need compassion to be able to tell you what they're struggling with. So if you could show that, they will open up.
Thank you so much. So, but apart from someone trying to suffocate the pain, because when you look at, I don't want to sound a little bit judgmental, but can I sound a little bit, permit me, the viewers, to be a little bit judgmental. If we look at the issue of a pornography, sometimes you think, is it not excitement? What are you going there to look? Okay, what are you going to look? What takes your mind and your heart over to that? Even like drugs, you say, okay, friends. But this one, you know, is you pump on your phone or wherever, you keep on watching it. So among couples, among relationships, among marriages, apart from the pain, what other things can lead a husband or wife into such act? Because especially within an African community or immigrant or black, you know, the way we view things is totally different. So what are other things that can lead somebody, a grown or young, to that, apart from trying to suffocate the pain? Because we don't want our viewers to use that as an excuse. I'm hurting. So what are other things that can lead to the issue of the masturbation, pornography? Because we can see the impact, like you said it earlier, it breaks our communication within the family. So what could be other reasons why such things happen?
Well, there are quite a few reasons. So one of them could be just the lack of education on what pornography is for, or sex addiction, or what sex and stuff like that. So when do we use sex? You know, you have to understand that we come from, as black people, first of all, our cultures are made in a way that we don't talk about sex at all, right? From the time a child is born to sometime when they go into, it's a big taboo, right? So if you look at it as of today, so if you have young children at home, and when they're born, they're playing, we can't even tell them what their body parts are, right? So we have hard time telling your kids, hey, that's a penis, this is a vagina. We have hard time saying that. We call it pee-pee or wee-wee, right? So the kid grows up knowing, this is a wee-wee, right? So they have no clue. When do we sit there and tell them what it is for? We avoid that subject. So we leave it up to the internet, the school, maybe, or whoever friends that can read and tell them and make up whatever the idea there, right? So that's how most of our kids learn about sex. So that becomes a problem to us because they growing up, they just know, well, sex means this to me. Once they get that knowledge in their head, it's very hard to remove it, right? So that's what they move forward with, and that's where we get stuck, right? So we're like, okay, now how do I change that knowledge to them? Because, you know, sometimes you might hear at school the teacher saying, your kids doesn't listen to me, but they listen to Johnny out there. Johnny always tells them this, and you're like, don't play with Johnny. Johnny gets you in trouble. Well, why is that? Because Johnny was the first one to tell them there. So there's a term in that in psychology, right? So, and whoever tells you the first information, it kind of leads you in a way of developing that knowledge, right? So if we as parents get that into that role of saying, let me tell you about sex. This is what sex is about. We educate them, so it becomes easier for them to have the better knowledge. If we don't, then they go out there and learn whatever they can, and when they grow up, they continue doing what they've learned best, which is sex over the internet. Hey, you know, it's just two people going together, get in the bedroom, take your clothes off, and go at it. And they expect it to last 35 minutes because that's what the movies are saying. And that becomes very difficult if the other partner cannot last 35 minutes.
So what I'm hearing you, curiosity can really lead people into that.
Curiosity, yes. Cultural expectations, right? So right now here in Canada that we are, what we see is everybody, sexualization is way out there, right? Everybody wants to have sex. People are dressed this way for the purpose of attracting men, and the first conversation might be, hey, do you want to have sex? You have website, those, what do you call that? The application on the phone there, the meeting, the grinders and Bumble and stuff like that. Yeah, so those ones, they promote those type of behavior, right? So it becomes very easy for people to think that any relationship must start with sex. Right? So relationships are starting with sex, and then we get to know each other after. So you see where the misunderstanding and misexpectations are coming from. So it's really very difficult when there's no that explanation before, or expectation, or even a roadmap on what should we follow. Right? So it's very difficult, and everything is up to interpretation.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to use this example. A couple, maybe the wife was a virgin when they married, and the husband is experienced.
Yeah.
Then the wife discovered that the husband complains every time. Do this more, do that more, you are not doing this, you are not doing that right. Then the wife thinks that the best way for her to match up with the husband is to watch. So what can you say, or how can that lady be free? However, the more she watches, the more the husband complains. So she is like, I need to look for all the styles and all the ways. So what can you say about that?
And that's where, having someone come over and talk about sex, it becomes really important. So each person, each couple might have a different challenge. The one you have given me as an example now, so now the wife is doing her best to satisfy her husband by watching every type of porn there is out there, so she can learn the moves and whatever, and then do it, right? So what has happened there is the husband has objectified the woman. So it's not longer a person, you become an object of his pleasure, right? So that's what has happened. So now, into what they call a codependency, where you drop all your desire as a woman in order to satisfy your husband, you start doing that. So you become codependent, right? So my needs are not really are not really matter, don't matter, as long as I do this for my husband and I'm okay. But women have needs too.
Yeah.
Right? Women have needs too. So has he changed anything to support you? No. He wants you to do it first. So that becomes a very negative relationship where, you know, there's an expectation on a woman to perform in a certain way. And when she does not perform that way, she's not adequate. So then in the brain of the husband, it's like, well, I'll find out if Susan next door can do it.
That's right.
Right? So then if Susan can do it, then you have a comparison. How can you be in a relationship when your husband is comparing you with someone else? Right? So instead of that, as a healthy relationship, your husband should be able to say, hey, you know, I know you're a virgin since we met, so now let me teach you some things. Okay, so let's do it together.
That's right.
Right? So when you do it together, you consent to it together, then it becomes healthy. Then you guys can try different things and you can feel comfortable doing it. You don't feel like you're being told to do something that you're not comfortable with. Yeah.
And the one thing I wanted to say, Mr. Patrick, like what you are saying, which is I really like it. When a woman becomes an object in a relationship, it's no longer healthy. And I can see the reason why people attribute one of the causes of domestic violence is addictions. Some of these addictive behavior.
That's right.
Because God, we all really know it, that God and marriage is ordained by God.
Yes.
And sex is a gift from God.
Yes.
We don't need to go to Argentina to go and borrow stars.
Yeah.
I always say there is nothing we ask the Holy Spirit that Holy Spirit will not do.
That's right.
What that person is doing out there may be influence of drug and alcohol. And you're expecting your gentle wife or your husband to perform it. And they, as you are going through that route, like you said, it now it becomes a pattern. That addiction becomes a pattern. So I think the best thing or the best suggestions for married couples out there that is listening is to try not to compare and try to not to see sex. We always thought about sex is healthy, but it's not just sex that build a relationship. I remember Proverbs 24:3 say, understanding and wisdom build it. And there are beauties in the husband and in the wife. Because when we focus on just the sex, trying to objectify the man or the woman, it takes away that intimacy. And now we can hear or see now the reason why people are saying that addiction and pornography or masturbation takes more time away from couples, because we are not really looking at ways to work together. Rather,
yeah, it becomes a little competition or even a separate ways, right? So it's like, well, yeah, my wife doesn't do this, so I might as well look for somebody else, you know, or something else. So even though you're doing it in the privacy of your four walls or your bedroom, or nowadays with the telephone cellulars, you know, it's very easy to access pornography, right? So even though you're doing there, it's still time that you could have delegated to your kids, your wife, and stuff like that.
That's right.
And it's consuming your mind, because once you start going into the pornography road, there is no limit. So today you see two people, you know, two skinny women. Next day your brain say, what if there's one skinny woman and one big man? And then your brain start escalating. And then next thing is, you know, that's why you see pornography becomes a perversion. And then you start thinking all the bad things that you could possibly think, because in the internet there is all of that. So, and you see that your brain start going all over the place. When you are in a relationship with a woman, you're not there present in physically, right? So you're there physically, but not in spirit and in mind, right? So you're not there because you are thinking that you're having sex with one of the people that you've seen on the movies or whatever, right? So, and that connection is broken because the way God planned for us to have sex is to be able to unite. So how can you unite when one person is not there?
Preacher.
What are you uniting? What are you uniting? So there is no unity there. So it's you take two, you put it into one. That's unity, right? So, but when there's nobody, so there's no unity. So that way it becomes really destructive and hurtful for other people, right? And because you watch so much pornography, you put that expectation onto your partner.
That's
right. So it's like, can you do this? Can you do that? Or even if you don't verbalize it, your mind is doing it. And you could be hurting your partner. You could be hurting your partner. But they might not say anything. They might just be like, okay, it's hurt. Let's try this. Let's try this. And, right? Why are they doing that? That's your cue. But you personally are not there. You're not even seeing that they're cringing and you don't even see that because your mind is in the movie, right? Or somewhere else. So in the meantime, the person hurts. And then at the end, you're like, oh, how was it? They have no choice but to say, yeah, it was good. Let's do it again. But what they really mean is no. Right? So there is a lot of that. But I guess also as a couple, it's really important that we start, first of all, before we even get to where the sex part is, we get to understand each other.
That's right.
So we get to understand each other and have a very open conversation. I'm married to you. I should be able to have the very difficult conversation with you or the most pleasurable conversation with you as well.
That's right.
So as a couple, you should be able to talk to each other about everything, including sex, masturbation, pornography. You should be able to talk to each other about that. Whether you want to talk to about let's not do it or let's do it, you should be able to have that conversation with your partner, right? So it should be very open. Now, for the people that are single, they should keep that in mind as well, that sex, pornography, masturbation could be very destructive to yourself and to the people around you, right? So if you're single, you're wondering, well, how is that going to hurt anybody? I don't have any kids, so I don't have anyone to pay attention to. Well, you have work to go and do. You're going to get late at work because you're too busy masturbating or watching porn. And then when you're at porn, or when you're at the office, every person you see walking by, your brain is thinking, oh, I wonder how they will be in bed. So you're not doing your job. You are fantasizing, right? So that's how it's hurting you, right? Because you're not paying attention to what you're supposed to be doing. And that becomes very destructive and very dangerous because your brain might tell you, well, take a risk. That's when you see sometimes people starting to expose themselves in public and stuff like that because they just can't wait.
And when they get married, it has effect also on the partner.
Yes.
What about, say, if somebody, maybe a husband and wife tells you, you know, if you love me, you should do it. Because there is always this saying, oh, if you are really in love, whatever your husband or your wife asks you to do, you should do it. But if your husband or wife are asking you to pray, then you should argue. So looking into this angle, oh, it's all about love, you should do what I ask you to do so that we can be happy. What does it mean to be in love with somebody?
Well, that's a very good question because what we have to understand, especially with this subject, is love is unconditional. So love is unconditional. So when I come up to you and say, I love you, you are my wife, you are my daughter, my son, there's no condition. You don't say, I love you only if. Right? So that's not love. Right? So love is unconditional. So that really is the key. Is if you love me so much, maybe we should have sex every day. I can love you, we can have sex every day. Does that mean I love you? No. Okay? Love is unconditional, so we have to keep that in mind. We also have to kind of understand each other's way of expressing love. There are you know, there are different ways of expressing love. There's some study that have been done here in the northern area, northern America here. However, they also apply very much to us as black and African people and people of color. So they call like the 5 love language. So we need to understand what are the 5 love languages. So for me, my love language is touch. So if my wife comes and touch my bald head, I'm in love, man. That's a good day for me, right? That's a good day for me, right? But for other people, they don't like to be touched, right? So some people have that as a love language, right? So if you look at, for instance, in the Bible, Jesus, when he came down for the mountain, I think it's what, Matthew 6:21 or something like that. When he came down the mountain and there was a full gather together, and then there is one person that has leprosy in there, and say, Jesus, if you want, you can heal me, right? What does it say? Is I do want, and then he touched them, and the person got healed. So that shows you the power of touching. So that's one love language, very powerful. And yes, that can lead to sex after, because, you know, there's places when you touch people, you're happy, right? That's fine. But that shows you the power, right? So as husband, as wife, you need to understand what is your partner's love language, right? So the other love language is act of service, okay? So if you love me so much, why don't you clean up the house? Right?
I think women can identify with
right?
that one.
So, you know, some people might be like, oh yeah, my husband or my wife like it clean, let me clean up over here, and then you come home, you're like, I have the best husband or I have the best wife ever. You know, that's way of them showing this is love, right? Act of service. For some people, it might be gifts, right? So I want to give you a gift. When you give them the gift, you could be like, take a rock and give them a rock. And that's the best gift ever. So a lot of us as parents, we've had a situation where the kids comes home with the little flower they picked on the side of the road. Mom, Dad, this is yours. Then and you're like, oh, that's so sweet. It means a lot for you, right? You understand them. You're like, oh, wow. I'm raising a good child because they know when to give people a gift. So it's not so much what gift it is. Was it expensive? Was it, you know, but it's the act of remembering that I need to bring something to the people I love, right? So that's another love language, right? And then you have, what else? Quality time, spending quality time with each other. You know, just you, your spouse, you know, or just together. No cell phones, no TV, just talking, right? We don't see that very often. So you see husband and wife in a room, one is always texting. There's always something important. You know, there's always something more important than you spending time together. Right? So those are the type of things, right? So when you start understanding that what is my partner's love language, how can I show love to her, right? Without taking my clothes off. That really is huge. When you get to that point, then you can also be able to sit down and say, hey, honey, let's talk about sex. What is your idea about sex? What do you want me to do when we're having sex? Have you ever sat there and asked your partner and say, what do you want me to do? We have this idea that, oh yeah, they want this. But have we ever asked them?
That's a good one. Instead of just assuming or thinking, okay, to be in love is if I ask you to do this, you have to do it, which you know that is detrimental to each other. Because love is not supposed to cause pain.
That's right.
Love is not supposed to cause you disappointment. love supposed to be refreshing, replenishing, each one of you serving each other, and finding your love languages and meeting each other's needs. So when a husband or wife is telling you, oh, if you love me, even with teenagers, we hear them, oh, if you love me, you have to be naked and let me take you picture. Please, if they're telling you that, oh, yeah, begins to run. And if they're telling you, oh, your husband or your wife telling you, oh, if you love me, you have to do this. It's okay, I think, to have conversation around there.
Yeah, absolutely. There is nothing between husband and wife. There shouldn't be nothing that they can't talk about.
Yeah.
You know, they should be able to talk about everything. Even, hi, honey, how do you masturbate? Right? Or how do you want me to do it on you? Show me. You need to talk about everything. If you can't have that, and you're supposed to be one, who are you having that conversation with?
That's right.
Right? So that's where it becomes problematic. Then it's like, I can't have that conversation with my wife. I go over here. Now, sometimes husbands, men, most of the time they don't have the proper vocabulary to say things like that.
And
right?
that's why they die in silence.
That's why
nobody can help you.
That's why we hold it in. They're like, yeah, I want to do this, but I don't really want to say anything, right? The reverse part of it is also women that have a certain way of wanting to be pleased. So you kind of, I want to do this, but if I go and tell my husband, honey, I want to have sex this way, he's going to be like, hey, where did you learn that from? Right? And that becomes a problem. Where have you been looking at?
Yeah.
So that becomes a problem, right? And then we both kind of push back and hold our own views to ourselves, right? So then the partner doesn't know, we pretend we are in love, but we are not really in love. We are separate.
And they are dying in silence and involving in secret sin or in secrecy. Because when there is an open conversation, couples can be able to help each other.
That's right.
And you can be able to identify when this is an issue and deal with it. So I think having an open conversation between couples is really, really important if couples can talk about anything. But sometimes we hear some couples or husbands saying, oh, if I share my struggles, maybe a husband or wife struggling with masturbation or pornography, the wife or the husband is going to use it against me. Before I ask you another question, I can see Sister Lizzie. It's like, she has a lot of questions, pumping. So, my beautiful Sister Lizzie, do you mind to go ahead?
My question is, please, for the sake of the audience, can you differentiate between love and sex? You said something a little bit on it, but can you differentiate?
Yes, absolutely. So sex basically means intercourse, right? So just when the two people's genital come into contact, so that's what we call sex, right? So just that the act, it does not have anything else into it, right? So when we talk about love, there is 3 parts to a love. So there is a psychologist called Robert Sternberg that did some studies to find out what exactly there is in love. So there is intimacy. Intimacy is what we call the feeling of attachment, of connectedness between two people, right? So that's part that has to be in love. The second part has to be the passion, that burning desire of being with that person, right? And then the third part is the commitment, that I want to be with them, not just for now, but forever. So those 3 things together create love, right? But a lot of time, what we looking at is that passion, you know, it's just like, oh my goodness, I want this person so bad, I just want to have sex with them. But you're not looking at 5, 6, 7 months or 10 years down the road. You're looking at, I just want to have sex and satisfy myself now, right? And that becomes dangerous if we're only looking at it that way. So that when you will see people getting married today and then 3 months down the road they start divorcing. because it was all based on the sexual instinct.
Yeah. The activity.
Yeah.
So based on your explanation,
Yeah.
one of our audience asked that if my husband is telling me, I love you, I love you, I love you, I can give anything to have you, but at the same time, it's cheating. What is that?
And that's happen very often, and that is just, again, the intimacy, that willingness to connect is not there, right? So one of the three elements that I just cited there, either the intimacy, the passion, or the commitment is not there, right? So a lot of time you will see people that have been married for so long, they just like, yeah, we're just going through the motion. You know, like husband telling wife, I love you. Because, yeah, they feel, yeah, we've been connected. And then we've been together for so while, so there is that commitment. So, yeah, so intimacy and commitments are there, but there's no passion, that willingness to be like, oh, this is the person I desire. I just want to have them, right? It's not there. So there is just like, yeah, I know her. Well, we've lived together 20 years, so I'm connected with her, and yeah, we'll continue being together. I don't see why I should break this up, but that need of saying, oh, I want to be with her is not there. So that's what happened in those situations where a husband will be like, I love you, but then they don't feel like, I really want to be with you. They leave, they go find someone else who gives them that, you know, those tingly feeling we get where we're like, this is my guy, or this is my girl, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're looking for. That's where the passion is.
So how do you bring that to your marriage? Because now marriage is for better, for worse.
Yeah.
And another question, can I say cheating is an addictive behavior? One question. And then how can a husband bring that butterfly, or even a wife, because it's vice versa.
Yeah.
So how can couples bring that butterfly, I want to be with you, to their relationship, instead of looking to James and John, Mary and Martha, and still you're not fulfilled? So how can we bring that into the family?
And again, that comes into with the communication part, right? So it's like, okay, let's get together again and let's start talking about it. So husband, wife, if you cannot do it yourselves, it's strongly encourage you bring someone else, someone external like me that can sit there with you guys and say, well, let's have this conversation. So are we communicating or just talking? Because if you're communicating, that means you're taking some time to listen and understand what the other person is saying before you respond or before you act. If you're just talking, it's just word coming out of your mouth with no meaning, no impact onto it, right? So you need to find out, is this couple communicating or talking? So if they can find that they are communicating, then they need to sit down and start talking. This is what I do see you doing. Tell me about it. Let them explain. And then again, you'll find out at the very bottom of it, you'll find out that it's just like either they do not understand each other's love language, or someone has been hurt so much, so every time you get hurt, you build an emotional wall around you. And that emotional wall does not go down even with time, unless the other person apologizes, right? So when the other person apologizes, then you give them a chance to repent, right? So they can repent then and then move forward. But if they have not done that, they can tell you, I love you, they can buy you a house. You're still capping in the back of your mind, it's like, I don't trust that, right? I don't trust that. So that's sometimes what happens. So when you make them sit down, they notice that they've hurt each other, then they can start now looking at how do they apologize so that they can move forward. So if they can bring them back to that, oh yeah, that passion can come back faster than it went away. And then they can go back to, again, when they were first dating and loving each other in that regard and moving forward.
That's quite interesting. Having the conversation and bringing somebody into the relationship. But what can lead couples to that place of now not having that butterfly? What can lead to that? Apart from maybe I hurt you, maybe because sometimes with no motive, I can have another motive of my action, whereas my husband is interpreting it differently. And my husband may be thinking, oh, I hurt him without me even thinking about it. So what are the things that can, like we're saying the addiction aspect of it, what can be other things that can lead to that place of weakness or dying of that butterfly feelings and breakdown in their healthy relationship that's supposed to be really joyful and rosy and groovy?
Yeah. Well, and again, that boils down to open communication with no judgment and compassion instead. So if your husband or your wife comes home to you and say, and I've had such a long day today, and I just need a break, and can you help me with the kids? And you're like, well, what am I doing? Why should I do that? Why should I do that? You should be able to do that, right? So you're rejecting her. Next time she comes home, do you think she's gonna say, can you help me with the kids again? No, she start holding it back.
That's right.
I'm just gonna put it in the face because I can't put up with this yelling. I can't put up with he's putting me down. I'm just gonna put up a face and then I'm gonna go. So all your energy are going down. So you still have those walls ahead, right? And then next time he wants to have sex, you're like, yeah, I can only give him when I can, so I'm just gonna pretend. And when you're pretending, he can feel it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh man, she's not good anymore. Okay? So then he start putting ideas in his own mind too. So really having an open conversation, no judgment, and compassion. Talk about everything. Talk about anything. How is it affecting you? So if your wife is telling you that, sit down and listen, say, well, what can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
Right? What can I do to support you? Ask them. Right? What can I do? You ask them, they will tell you. Well, nothing for now is out. Okay, would that help if I tried this? Right? And we also have to understand that what makes Patrick happy does not necessarily mean that what's going to make Lizzie happy or yourself or my wife even, right? So it's not going to be the same thing. We come from different family. In my family, they may have told me, if someone does you wrong, they have to apologize to you before you can start talking to them. In hers, they might tell her, if someone does you wrong, just go to them and say, hey, listen, I didn't like what you were saying, but let's move on. So we have two different ways of looking at one thing. So if I'm doing what they told me in my family, say, I'm not going to talk to her till she apologizes, and I expect her to do the same with me when there is a problem, never going to happen because we have two different ways of looking at the same problem. And she's like, I'm not going to talk to her. He has to go and apologize. And she's waiting for, I'm waiting for her to do this. And we talk differently. So we need to really come back to the table and openly talk about it, right? So it's always about the pain. Why the pain? What's causing you the pain? Well, and then you might see someone say, you always tell me you love me. But if you really love me, why do you always do this to me?
That's right.
Right? Then you need to kind of take that as a clue. Why do you always do this to me? And offer an opportunity to repent and say, I'm sorry. Right? Some people may like to be asked, how can I apologize to you? Some people like knowing, how can I make it better to you? Right? So those are the different ways of apologizing. Just like we have 5 different love language, we also have 5 ways of apologizing. So until you've told someone an apology in the language that means something to them, you haven't apologized yet.
We have one question here and then another one.
It says, when sex becomes addictive, does that mean the person has a hyperactive libido?
Not necessarily. You can have active libido and still have healthy sex,
Yeah.
right? So when we say it becomes addictive, that means that it's continuing and hurting someone or somebody, right? It does not necessarily mean that even people with low sex, low libido, they still have sex addiction, right? Because for them, sex is more about, okay, just being with someone and doing it and going, that's it. So it's not so much about how much intensity you feel. No, it does not. So it's about what do you do with that. So what do you do with sex, and instead of how much intensity you have.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's where the addiction is.
Yeah, and there is a private chat. Somebody said, pornography affect trust in a relationship. So what do you have to say about that, and how can couples start rebuilding trust broken when they found out that one of the partners is involved in pornography?
Yes, and the one thing is, once trust is broken, even when you apologize, it does not mean that you've earned the trust back. You have to re-earn it with your action, right? You have to re-earn it with your action and with your behavior. Yes, pornography can break the trust because it's cheating. You know,
What did you
imagine
say?
It's cheating.
it's cheating, right? So you're cheating imagine you being in a relationship and your husband or your spouse spends all her time or his time looking at pornography. That's all they do. It's like, hey, are you going to pick up the kids? Oh, no, yeah, I'll be there. And then they get there late. Say, what happened? Oh, yeah, no, there was a traffic on the road and I couldn't make it. And, and then I had to take this road. So now you're lying, right? And then the husband finds out that, oh, the internet bill is now $7,000 instead of $200 because you've been going on the internet. Then it becomes a problem, right? So it's like, what happened here? Because you can't blame the kids because all of them are under 3, so they're not going to go onto the internet. So it's only you and the husband. So now what? You can't blame the neighbor either. Say, well, maybe they've been looking at our computer. No, it's you. Okay, so now what do we do? So trust is broken. When trust is broken, we need to first come back to the table, apologize, right? So you need to come back to the table, recognize, take responsibility, and then apologize. When you're apologizing, do not use an excuse. If you have to say, I'm really sorry for cheating and watching pornography, but you are excusing already. Okay, don't use the word but. All right? So, or because. Right? So I'm really doing that because now you're starting to justify, right? So don't use those words. Just take responsibility and say, I'm really sorry for what I've done, right? So, and then you can find out, how do I make things better? Where do we move forward? So that's how you start rebuilding that trust. Now, if you say, I'm not going to watch pornogaphy anymore, you have to mean it. You cannot just say, I'm not going to watch pornography when you're home. But when you're not there, I'm going to watch it anyway. So that's not, right, the message, the partner want to hear. They want to hear no at all. And then you can open up after that. Once you establish connection, you can open up, say, what does pornography does to me? So when I watch it, what do I feel? Right? What do I feel? What part of my brain is activated? So there's a dopamine surge in your body. What else can bring you that dopamine surge?
So there has to be replacement. Okay?
Yeah, exercise, right? It can be the exercising instead, or having great conversation with other people, right? And stuff like that. So maybe you can replace it with that, right? And step by step. It's not very easy to do. It's hard, but it's doable, right? So it's doable. So we just need to be back on the table, open conversation, and explaining. And for the partner to explain all that for you, you have to be judgment-free as well. Right? You have to be judgment-free. If you want to learn the truth, you have to be judgment-free.
So how can couples now, because you know sometimes it can be tough. It can be tough for each of the couple to be present and hear some of the ugly stories. And as Christians, how can they help each other? How can the other couple try to be non-judgmental, to be present? Do you think they will need counseling or external help, or do they need prayer? What do you think that can really be helpful? Because it might not be easy, you know, for somebody to say, okay, knowing now I'm hearing that pornography or masturbation, all of them are cheating, you know. There are some people hearing it for the first time, and now maybe their wife is coming face to face or their husband coming face to face. Sister Liz is laughing to talk about it, no, because trust is broken, and now the couple are beginning to say, oh, is that why you are behaving each time I want to talk to you? Is that why you are distancing me? Is that why you are not present? So what do you think that could really help the one on you don't use the word the Holy See, the one in I'm not at fault now.
Yeah.
What do you think that can really help that person to say, okay, shh, don't shout, and
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of things. So, you know, if couple are going through that difficulty, then definitely reaching out to someone is important. And the role that pastors have played in many communities in our culture, or even elders in our culture, has been that of a counselor, right? And then that really is the key. So when we do that, we sit them together, we help them communicate.
Okay.
So that's what the pastors, the elders have always done, to help them communicate, so that they can get to the point where they can speak freely without feeling like, I have to hold this part back because he's going to say or she's going to think this. Okay? So if necessary, reach out to somebody. Yes, a counselor like me, we're just part of that little group of people that can help people have an open conversation, right? So we set up the boundaries. Otherwise, it's just going to be one person that's going to be talking. The second part, too, is both parties have to be willing to make it better. Right?
They have to be intentional.
Yeah, they have to have that purposeful intention to let's make it better. Because if one is like, I'm not doing that, you know, that's your problem, then there is no unity there, right? And that becomes very problematic. So they have to work together to make it better, right? The third part is we also have to kind of understand our own personality. So there is people that are called narcissists, that never at fault. Everybody else is at fault but them, right? They will find a reason, right? You know, in a joking way, people say, you know, narcissists have a reason why Jesus passed away.
That's right.
Right? So they can find a reason, and they can make a very compelling argument, because that's just the way they are. They liking the part of empathy. Right? So if you both have empathy toward one another, you can make it work.
So when you're dealing with a narcissist now, what do you do?
Well, I don't think we have. Yeah, that would be part two, because dealing with the narcissist is a completely different nightmare that, you know, it's very difficult to manage, right? So, and especially narcissist is never at fault.
Wow.
So, being, you know, you are a Christian and you are a counselor, what do you have to say about the spiritual implication of all these things in our own life? Because it's not about your partner. You know, at the last day, you're not going to say, oh, you caused me to make the mistake, or because of you I do this. What do you have to say now?
Yeah, well, just like, you know, God and Jesus tells us that they love all of us, right? So we are shaped differently, we're born differently, but they love us with our differences, with our color differences and everything else. Really, that's kind of where we have to be at, is, you know, even when your partner has problems or way of doing. So just love them for who they are, but then bring them to the table so that you can have that conversation with them. When we start doing this, pointing fingers, that's where the conversation stops.
That's right.
Even where it's really upsetting to us, right? We cannot point fingers. We have to know that they are struggling with something. Okay? And if we do another session, I can break up some of the very basic instinct needs of a person. We have about 12 different needs that each one we're born with that causes us sometimes to feel that something is awkward in us, right? So, and I can break it down for you, and then we can go into details when you will see. But if you don't know what are those needs, the only way you can find out if we sit together, let's talk, let's go into that judgment-free. And when we set up time to talk, set up time to talk as well. Instead of you walking, hey, where are you? We need to talk now, right? So set up time saying, husband, wife, there's something that's really bothering me that I really need to talk to you about. I'm wondering when you have time for us to sit down and talk about it, right? And then you can talk about it and say, I'm not blaming you. I just wanted to have a conversation to express what is paining me.
That's right.
Right? So, and you don't have to respond today, but can I at least say it? And go from there. And then they can set up time, you go from there. So now you're starting to treat each other as a couple, as an equal, and then you can move forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick, for coming. Thank you, Sister Lizzie. Thank you, our favorite viewers. It's been an awesome time today. One thing we have to leave with you, you don't have to dial in silent. Addiction is real, but there is help out there. Couples, be intentional to make it work. Instead of you living in isolation, dying in silence, bring it out there, talk about it, ask God. By God's help, God will help you and your husband to figure it out and find better ways to live. So that you will enjoy your marriage, you will enjoy each other. It is not the will of God for us to be suffering in sin. The Bible says, God said, come unto me, all you that labor, I will give you rest. So no matter what we are really going through there, pornography is real, masturbation is real, but God is able to help you, and there are counselors out there that will help you figure it out. Be open, be non-judgmental, don't condemn yourself, but know that you have to do something. You have to do the work. No excuses, no pointing, accusing finger. You are the one that caused it. Just take that responsibility and come forward, and the Lord will help you. So thank you for coming today and sharing this wonderful topic with us. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a wonderful evening, and God bless you. Keep smiling, keep enjoying, keep having a good conversation with your husband and your wife. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
When it is Tuesday on the True Word Television, it is time to explore the True Wellness Connections.
Welcome again to the True Wellness Connection. My name is Claudine Salomo.
Today's Tuesday.
Especially on Tuesdays like this, we talk about a lot of topics.
Join Mrs. Claudine Salomo.
I am not saying you should not love yourself for who you are, but you should want to do something even better.
Victoria Masio
You just have to be honest with yourself.
and Elizabeth Bremo
The way you live tells so much to the kids.
to talk health, wealth, parenting, relationship, finances, and life at large.
Because any negative thought, trust me, does never build anybody, can only destroy us.
Look deep inside your pocket, your bank account.
The way you handle situations at home matters.
The True Wellness Connections, every Tuesday on the True Word Television, 5:30 Winnipeg.
Hello, my name is Pastor Joy. I invite you to tune in on a regular basis to the True Word Television and be blessed by God's servants from all over the world. Welcome. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Bishop, wako pastor. Uko bishop. Haribanabaka. Hausa luso. Fusinya hile joa. Umutori ho ho ho.
Bamita kamabito Emmanuel. Bamita kamabito Emmanuel. Mabito Emmanuel. Mabito Emmanuel. Bamita kamabito Emmanuel.
You are watching the True Word Television, spreading the true word of salvation.